Then.
So we are now live. So hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the
Hello.
Alchemy Bench. Joining us today, some of our irregular regulars, we have Jonathan
Hello there.
and Yoey.
Hello.
And me, John. Hi. So I'm going to be a little uncomfortable today, sad to say, because my dog Wesley is right there. He's something about his ear is bugging him. He's been scratching it a lot, scratching it so much that his ear actually started bleeding. So he is wearing the cone of shame, and he really hates it, and it makes him super needy. So he is right where my feet would normally be. So I'm sitting a little awkwardly.
But hello everyone. We're at the beginning of the show, so welcome to the weekend. It's been another week, but remember, come the revolution, every day will be the weekend.
Everybody's twerking for the weekend.
and I sing there even though I'm told not to. Sorry, Julie, in the live
Well,
chat.
she's not in the channel. She can't scream at you, so go nuts.
She'll type in all caps in the live chat, and I'll hear about it next week or on Facebook or something like that. Especially when I make a pun or anything like that. But we're at the beginning of the recording of the podcast as well, so we should be ready to thank our patrons as well, because we've been forgetting that the last couple of times. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you're listening to the podcast, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review if you can.
Indeed.
There are a bunch of J's, aren't there?
Mm-hmm. We got Jonathan, and Yoey today.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and thank our patrons at the top of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got those two random assholes, and then we have Tim.
Yeah.
Thank
you, Tim.
And Von Rek.
Thank you, Von Rek.
Ellie.
Thank you.
And Yo.
Thank you, Yo, who's in the chat.
And Mylin.
Thank you. Oh, it's also in the chat. Thank you, Mylin.
And Yemye.
Thank you, Jamie.
And Marty.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you all for making this all possible. Money is tight for everyone, so
things are annoying.
God, shit. Why can't we have at least one billionaire on our side?
Well, we do have George Soros, and I have been getting my checks, but I'm not sharing them because I don't like Jonathan's hats.
Look, where do you sign up for all that stuff? Because
you have to go to your local synagogue and talk to the rabbi, and he'll connect you with the elders of Zion, and it's a whole thing.
Oh, I mean, yeah, money. What is that? It's just like numbers and zeros in what's called a bank account. If it's kind of paper form, it's usually green, in my experience, at least.
It should be gold and silver.
It's not even based on gold and silver anymore, is it?
No, we went off the gold standard a long time ago.
They literally pull it out their ass. Just add it in, type in a bunch more zeros, add it on to the end of the...
It means that they can manage the money system more effectively, and it's actually slightly better for debtors this way.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a weird thing for them to have done. But, yeah, money is a fiction, always has been. Mm-hmm. But now it's a fiction we have somewhat more control over, so I guess that's okay.
It sounds fake. So like something a scammer would come up with to fleece little old ladies.
Nice work if you can get it.
It sounds like a pyramid scheme. Like the world's biggest pyramid scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Like no matter how hard you work, if you're working like just a regular menial job, never mind that I think probably just about every person in a first world nation has been into some kind of public restroom where you wish that somebody who was really good at cleaning the toilet was cleaning the toilet. Everybody's been in a bathroom like that. So we should all know the actual worth of somebody who does menial labor like cleaning toilets. They should get paid more. They should get paid better than the CEO. Because what's the CEO actually doing? Really?
He
What are they
is
really
being
doing?
rich and white and male and probably Christian.
And
Yes.
probably writing off their like lunches and dinners and golf memberships.
Mm-hmm. Because of the golf memberships, that's where make all the best deals. And it's just like, yeah, it's like, and yet, when people talk to us communists, they're like, you want to live in a world without money? And you think, how can that all work? And it's just like, okay, have you been in a family? Have you like been hanging around with friends? Have you like what?
Those people don't have friends.
Well, okay, and maybe they don't talk to their family either. So okay, so maybe they are just like lone sharks and lone wolves, and just everyone just like thinks they're all out for themselves because they're always out for themselves and nothing else.
Yep. A lot of it tends to be projection. I mean, look at what Cory Booker just decided to say. Like he's like, oh well, if we don't want them to, the Republicans to offer up a SCOTUS and vote on it, well, then we just need to appeal to their sense of decency.
Yeah, the Fash
I'm
don't
like,
have a sense of
what?
decency. The Fash have
This
a sense
is
of
how
fear.
we lose all the fucking time.
That's why liberals
over
lose
and
to the
over and over.
Fash. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, that appeal to their sense of decency, we're talking about an entire party that is literally looking at the letter of the law going, how can we best get around this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're not for, if they support police, they don't actually support the laws that the police are supposed to be enforcing. Because if the police actually enforced the laws, then people
that's
like
not the purpose of the
Epstein wouldn't.
police.
People like Epstein wouldn't have even gotten to the heights of power that he did.
Mm-hmm.
He just wouldn't have if they supported the police, if they supported the letter of the law being applied equally to all human beings. Then most CEOs would have been arrested a long time ago, because I mean, worse than poisoning one person is poisoning a million. And yet they're still running around free.
Are they really people? Pretty sure CEOs mostly poison brown people. So
right. I was getting into that discussion with somebody the other day because I'm totally aware that we need a lot of different sorts of power sources that are green and sustainable in the future. And one that a lot of people like bringing up is nuclear. And I would be a lot more fine with nuclear if it weren't for the fact that all the uranium mines are on reservation and all the places where they put the waste are under reservations.
Yep.
I'm tired of that. I'm tired of like having to choose between like everybody in the entire species dying or just my people. Like, we're almost gone already. Is that the point? Is that their ultimate, plan, is to make sure that we are absolutely gone?
I don't know if it's a plan so much as, an ancillary benefit. Something that they're, they're okay with.
Well, and I don't know. I guess I'm just tired of colonizers this week.
I don't blame you.
I've had like a rough week, month, year, decade,
generation.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, yeah. 2020's been rough on everyone, but.
And I keep going back to okay, well, what's the ultimate cause of it? Well, today's bad because blah blah, and then yesterday was bad because blah blah, but then this whole year's been bad because blah blah, and you go farther and farther back, and ultimately down at the core of everything, it's just colonizers.
Colonizer.
That was the ultimate. You could even go farther back into European history. And you're oh, look, they were colonized too. So we're still back to the ultimate root of all the issues that we're looking at on the planet is basically authoritarianism slash imperialism slash colonialism. Like it's basically all from the same area of the brain. It's from the same type of people who hold the same type of values. And I'm just sitting over here going, I'm pretty sure that just about every culture that has some nice bits in it all say the same thing. Don't let those kind of people get power. Like, what the fuck happened somewhere along the line?
Well, the thing is, there's about 16% of the population that just really, really wants fascism.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, actually, this is something that Benjamin Dickinson like pointed out years ago, that there was I did find this clip as well with Bill O'Reilly in 2007 talking to John McCain, and it was about the time of like the immigrants. But what Bill O'Reilly kind of said is very telling, is that like the immigrants coming from Mexico, and which is why Bill O'Reilly said we should consider like proposals in, presented by us by Pat Buchanan. So, but Bill O'Reilly says like the immigrants are threatening the power structure of Christian white males in America.
Yeah, because they fucked everything up, though. I don't see how that's bad. How do you take a look around at the world and go, you know what? European white dudes who are Christian, we got it going on. I mean, look at all this shit. Like, they're not... We've got a CEO who is a white dude who's in charge of things like the iPhone, right? So it's easy to look at somebody like that and go, yes, yes, white dudes have provided this for the entire world. But if you look at who actually did the work, it was not him.
It was brown
Most
people
of it
and
was
women.
not white dudes.
Yeah.
Like, it just...
Most of the world, fortunately, is not white dudes.
And how do you even look back through history and you look at, like, you know, back when they had all those big funky, you know, facial hair with the big sideburns and stuff, and
I feel attacked right now.
Like Victorian era. You look at those guys like that and you're like, how did they have all the time to be so learned and so brilliant? Maybe because they didn't have to do anything, even so much as like take out the garbage. They didn't have to do anything. Like, they had employees to do that. They had wives. They had kids. They had like servants and oftentimes
why are you
slaves.
just using different synonyms for property?
Right? Exactly. That, like, they have all these people that they consider that they own, that they can put to work for them. And then, yes, anybody who doesn't have to even so much as clean a toilet in their own house or fold their own laundry has plenty of time to devote to reading and brilliance.
And you'll notice how few of them manage that.
Dude, like, even the mediocre white dude can then afford to pretend to be brilliant. And thus we have like modern times where you've got the vast majority of white dudes online who think that they're so special and so unique.
Well, they are very
mediocre.
Emotional.
They're mediocre. Like, they're not even brilliant. Like, there's just nothing special about them. Like, they can't even get ahead in this non-meritocracy. Like, they're not super popular. They're not super rich. They just happen to be white dudes. They've never really experienced that much oppression.
Yeah.
And just because they don't have a bunch of money, they figure, oh no, I'm oppressed.
No, actually, a friend of mine
really
did
quick,
say
I just
that.
want to say,
Okay.
Julie in the chat asked, how dare we have Yoey on when she's not here? We had Yoey on because you're not here, Julie. That's next time, don't move. No,
Well, we can't blame her because it's like capitalism and economics and this thing and that thing. And I mean, Macron's her president. We have to like console her because her Biden is her president as well.
I'm not sure either of them deserve that comparison.
Biden's gonna save us all, yo. He's gonna he's our savior, he's our hero.
Biden is so progressive.
Somebody needs to send him a cape, all right? He needs a cape.
If you make it out of women's hair, he might actually wear it.
He'd be too busy sniffing it to ever get elected.
Yes, he is not a fascist. That makes him progressive, good enough to vote for. Yes, we are cruel bastards, Julie. Remember who you're talking to.
No, Von Rex. Julie did not move because she wanted to. I'm just being an ass.
Only kind of an ass. But yeah, this is the myth, like Mithril said, the myth of bosses being wealth creators or job creators. It's just no, it's always the
supply side economics has always been wrong. Trickle down economics has always been a lie. Mm-hmm. It's always been trickle up. And poor people spending money is what drives the economy, and that's why the economy's always been bad. Is because they keep making sure the poor don't
trickling down on us. It's just not money.
It's barely any crumbs which we need to survive. Sometimes it's just shit. I wouldn't go so far to say Biden's a fascist personally. I know many of my other comrades have said that. I personally think he's just for sure conservative and neoliberal, and I will say that neoliberalism leads to fascism. So we're just going to go back a step, essentially. Go from if Biden does win, which I'm still not sure how I'm going to vote for, but because I'm in a very blue state, Washington State, I'm not sure if vote would actually have an impact on something like that. If I were in a battleground south of the swing state, or it's very close, in 3 points, it could go either way, I would vote for Biden, no question. Because it is one way to hey Groundhog, one way to stop the fascism if Trump will abide by the rule of law and something like that. It does seem like the Senate will actually say no, we will commit to a peaceful transition if that is the case. That's what the Senate says. I'll believe it when I see it happens. But Trump has said he's saying there's not going to be a peaceful transition, and he's probably just going to dispute the election results unless it's the results of him winning. And so, yes, liberals, you can go and vote. That is something. It's not direct action, though. That set me off, honestly. But voting,
comrades, go bomb oil pipelines, murder police officers in the street, stab landlords with Jonathan's knife. He has a knife. He showed it to me.
I have the swords right there in the corner. I got size too, and a bow stuff. I won them at a raffle.
You entered the raffle because you wanted to win them. Be honest.
It's to support. It's support to the mixed martial arts school that my dad teaches at. Anyway, it's.
I think when you're talking fascism, it becomes a lot like racism. So that you've got, if you are the kind of person who is an active racist, that is obvious. This is an obvious. Yeah, that's a racist. Then you've got the person who is anti-racist on the opposite end, but in the middle.
You have liberals.
You will have tons of people who tolerate the bigotry. And it's the same way with fascism. That's where neoliberals sit. They're like, hey, can't we have a little bit of compromise? Let's compromise with these. Oh, so you want a little bit of fascism? Where does that lead you? That's how we got where we are right now.
I don't know. I think the U.S. has always been quietly fascist. And we've been fighting really hard to...
obviously, they walked onto a continent saying, no, it's ours because y'all aren't really human because you're not Christian. When you start looking up and reading the doctrine of discovery, and you realize that they used one single document to get Canada, the United States, Australia, parts of Africa, all over the fucking world these people had gone. using the same document that cannot possibly be rescinded by the Holy See. The Holy See can't actually cancel it, because if he does, and this one wanted to, by the way, if he does, it throws everything up in the air legally all over the world. It is still to this day a cited legal document when you're talking about issues between indigenous land rights and colonizer government land rights. So whenever Canada and First Nations go head to head, whenever Native American nations and the United States government go head to head, they have to pull out the doctrine of discovery. They have to, because it is still a legally binding document. If the Holy See rescinds that fucker, it goes away, and suddenly entire governments no longer have a rightful claim to the lands that they're sitting on. And suddenly something like 300 million Americans are no longer citizens of a nation.
Yep, I'm on Dumas land as well as like I looked this up before, and the Costa City like a collection of the tribes. Yeah, I'm on someone else's land.
I'm on my own. I think that's probably one of the things, like this week I've been especially in a pissy foul mood, just really, really foul. And one of the reasons is, first off, I got dinged a $50 fine from the fucking city for not having my lawn mowed down, right? So they send me this fine for $50, and okay, so I have to write out the check because I don't want them to do stupid shit like putting liens on the house. So I write out the check, but down in the bottom, I put fascist colonizers as the note. Because I am on unceded treaty lands, guaranteed to my tribe by the Treaty of 1868, signed in Fort Laramie, Wyoming. Well, it wasn't Wyoming then. That literally guarantees my people, like that's that famous treaty that got included with a whole bunch of different nations that signed it at the same time, that has the famous wording is as long as the water flows and the grass grows and blah blah blah, that this land was going to be ours. The 1868 treaty like guaranteed this huge swath of land in the middle of the United States to Plains tribes. Like it was supposed to be absolutely guaranteed white people free. Like that was the whole idea. So that Lakota people would stop warring, because Lakota, the ancestors that I have, they did not fight fair when it came to the colonizers. They did not. Honor in battle was something that you did between the tribes. Once Lakota people saw how the cavalry was going to be for us, that they were slaughtering women and children and elders, and they weren't just staying with the men and having a fight and then leaving depending on if they lost. No, there was like no honor in these people. And so Lakota were like, okay, fine, we're not going to fight honorably. So they would literally break into settler homes and slit their throats in the night to try to get people to leave and not settle here and not come here, because it was guaranteed by treaty right, like it was supposed to be ours. Then they discovered gold in the Black Hills, and that was the end of it. They took the entire
I was wondering
Black
what
Hills,
it was.
and then here, like I am sitting here 120 years after all of this goes down and they take the hills back, and paying a double mortgage on a piece of property that's supposed to be mine. It's supposed to be mine and my people's, and specifically my particular council fire in my tribe. This is supposed to actually be my reservation as well. I should, as a chief of my council fire, be provided a place to live. And so literally I'm living in a house that should by all rights be free. By all rights. By every logical, reasonable, rational conclusion, even according to court documents that can be upheld and shown to like fucking SCOTUS. And I'm having to like pay this double mortgage, pay fines to colonials for not having my grass mowed, like, and on top of everything else, now that I'm disabled and my kids are moving on with their lives, I'm probably going to lose my house. So everything that I worked for, like in my entire life, all of the shit that I've ever done, and it's just literally getting flushed down the toilet by a colonial system that isn't even mine. Mm-hmm. So this week has been particularly frustrating as far as looking around at the world and just going, fascism? Should we really discuss fascism? Because it's at every stage, on every level of just about every fucking first world country to some degree. Like you go to Scandinavian countries, they still have fascism. Ask the Sami. Ask the Sami
Can
how
we
they're
have
being
just a little
treated.
Genocide?
Like
just the tip.
Europe has indigenous folks, and they're still getting shat upon by fascist people who, like, the colonialism ran through Europe. And so we all look at Europeans going, it's Europeans' fault. Not really. Not really. They got colonized too. They just happened to pick up the pattern of behavior and do it really well. Like, that's it. But it's not like when they first got encountered, they didn't have a whole bunch of pagans just loving whoever the fuck they wanted, you know, literally fornicating in the fields. Like, I mean, Europe got colonized too. And so like the decolonization process, it's not just for indigenous people. It's also for white people. White people have to decolonize. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, and that, talk about a lot of work. Mm-hmm. Like, decolonizing for me is like 120 years worth. For you guys, though, we're talking about centuries worth of work.
Yeah. Julie, Julie's proposing to you again, Yoey. Yoey, marry me.
Don't do it. She's trying to steal American citizenship. She wants to be an anchor baby.
Fuck, I'd rather move at this point. I think that's a part that pisses me off most. These motherfuckers got me so pissed off in my own goddamn continent. Like, I actually would be willing to leave it. That's how, like, over these people I am. I swear. Especially, you know, like, I live in a red state, so the people around me are avid Trump supporters. And that happened this week, too, where I suspect that my actual doctor, like my general practitioner, he's got a medical degree, might actually be a Trump supporter.
Yep, it's just like the people it's just a human thing where we can like think in one way and use critical thinking skills or develop those skills and like use those skills to apply to medicine, field of medicine, as it were, and yet compartmentalize that over there or something, or do something else, and then think, yeah, but Trump is my president for some reason, or maybe again for the power structure of white Christian males, Trump will defend that, and it's like, I don't know how to like fix that. I'm not talking to conservatives because, well, if I do, it has to be like not political and something like that, because I've met people at work who voted for Trump, and I was just like, we're at work, so I'm not going to say anything else. That doesn't stop me having some conversations with my conservative coworkers, like one who yelled at me about like, it didn't work in Russia, but yet I'm trying to like at least get.
They didn't try it in Russia.
They
Right.
didn't try. And I'm trying to like talk to like liberals, and yet I just get more frustrated, especially when they're like they don't seem to understand what direct action means when they say writing to your representatives is direct action. It's like, no, you're a friend.
Right.
You're a friend. I like you still, but it's just like it's again, it's just like I talked about like what I'm talking about, but whatever I'm talking about goes through the liberal filter and into the liberal mindset and the liberal worldview glasses, as it were, and then they ask questions, and I'm just like, why would that be a concern? It's like, anyway.
It's frustrating as hell. And you know, the thing that gets me is, you know, you can't chalk it up to education. You can't.
Yeah.
Like all I've got, the only diploma I have is high school. That's it. I went to public high school. I have some college, but I never got a degree from there.
Oh, you got more than me.
But mostly I have this high school degree. And even with a high school diploma, you should know at least a few things. It doesn't have to do with the education. Most human beings are literate. We can look this shit up. It's not like it's hidden information, especially if you are online with internet access. You can find whatever the fuck you want online. I mean, whatever you want. You can find proof of unicorns if you really want to find it. Like, I mean, you can find anything you want online.
Don't go hunting
so
unicorns.
Like...
That's always gross. It ruins polyam communities.
So it's not education. And so you're basically stuck with this, okay, well, I guess people are easily incultivized, I guess, to totally make up a word. It's just easy to incultivize people. It's easy to get them in cults. All you've got to do is appeal to their sense of loneliness, which this particular society, the way that we live right now, that's super easy to find lonely people. I mean, that's like everyone.
Oh,
you know, I mean, we don't live the same way that we evolved to live in, where you wake up in the morning, there used to be just, you know, centuries past. We're not talking about millennia ago. We're talking about centuries ago. You wake up in the morning and there's usually more than one person in your room besides you.
You didn't usually have rooms.
Then even if there is more than one room in your home, which for most people there weren't, there's just one room in your home, and literally everybody lives in it. Like every
just like
generation.
JRPGs that I play.
But I mean, like, that's the way like we evolved with, is having all these human beings super close to us. So it's easy to find lonely people. And when you're talking about a group of human beings that all agree with some of your other opinions, it's easy to start getting, these are my friends. I've got this new group of people. And then it's super, super easy for peer pressure to then take over. And pretty soon you're starting to dabble in fascism because your friends are fascists, and you don't want to argue with them because then you might have to leave your new friend group, and you really like these people. So you have like perfectly likable people who also are fucking fascists or racists or transphobes or whatever.
Yep, that's what's the whole thesis of like Innuendo Studios video, how to radicalize Gabe, which I'm going to put into the live chat right now, because it's not Gabe did not become a fascist because he wanted to be a fascist. He went with the group or the community and wanted to stay for the community. That community just got increasingly more fascist, or he happened to found a community that had that as politics but didn't present it as politics, more as presented as like lifestyle or just like a fandom, and talking about fandoms that happen to have like Nazis. It's so weird that like it's so weird when you just look at like the Brony community. Like, it's so weird. If you were a Brony from 2010 and loved that show, My Little Pony Friendship Magic, and are outside of the target demographic of little girls, you're still a fan now, you're either one or two things with very little in between. You're either trans, hello, or fascists. And I don't know how that happened with that show. With other shows and other anime,
well, there's something about fascists and wanting to have sex with a pony. I don't know.
Well, that explains some of the videos on Pornhub.
But then again, some people in the fandom are really lonely too, and that's how like the fascists kind of like target those kind of people. And I was in like Tabby's the Wolf is like a stream last night where she was doing a political stream, just reading articles on like mutual aid, and a groundhog still in the live chat was also part of that, and we mentioned how what should bring us together and collectivizing is just like working together and mutual aid and unionizing. But yet many of us have said, yeah, I don't talk to my neighbors, and that's true for me, and I'm a cis passing like a white man, and I still don't talk to my neighbors. I used to have old neighbors that did talk to us.
That's partly because you work 80 hours a week.
Yeah, there's that. Yes, I should cut down though. In fact, I took yesterday off just because I have a whole lot of vacation time that I will lose some of it if I don't use it.
How the fuck can you lose something?
It's
I know.
Because I have over 380 hours of PTO. So it's just like I constantly accrue and never took a vacation, essentially.
No, I'm saying that it's yours. You shouldn't be able to lose it. But
I would love to cash it out because then, in fact, I would just share this personally because I noticed that like Phoenix has like posted something about like always need money because she always needs money. So to give to Phoenix if you can, I'll post the charity links at Google Doc after this point. And so I was like, okay, I'll go on and help Phoenix, but it's like, okay, no, let me check my bank's information, bank account. I know I'm up there towards my credit limits. I want to know how close I am. Oh, well, I'm closer to that one than I thought. Oh, yeah, I'm closer to that one than I thought, too. And what do I have in my checking account or savings? Okay, I have some money there. I'll give some of it to Phoenix, and that's what I did. So that's why I made a Facebook post of saying, like, wow, I'm this close to, like, maxing out my credit cards. Fuck capitalism, fuck this whole system, and fuck the system that, like, forces people to beg. And it's a frustration I constantly have because I don't know how to, like, convince more people that the problem is capitalism, which ties into colonialism, as you said, Joe. And yes, we should also decolonize as well, like, get rid of capitalism. And it's just sometimes really bleak, as it were. I guess we just have to like
have to go hand in hand. So I sometimes wonder if maybe we're doing it the wrong way around. Maybe we have to go it from the other angle, because so part of like in Lakota traditions, I like to call myself, when people ask me, oh, what kind of communist are you? Because I say usually, I'm a communist. I just make it simple and say that. And people say, well, what kind of communist are you? And I usually say, I'm a Lakami. And they're like, what is that? And I'm like, a Lakota person who is traditional, because traditionally we were all communists.
Yes.
And they're like, well, what's the difference? Isn't that like, primitive communism? And I'm like, please stop with that. Please stop with that. Because we've got thousands of indigenous tribes that span this entire hemisphere that were practicing some form of communism or socialism. None of them were capitalists. Not one. There was no, oh, this and oh, that. Were there a few tribes that had something like slaves? Yeah, there were. And guess who everyone else thought of as being the bad guys? Hello, still the baddies. Like, if we're gonna like talk about communism, we can't take literally thousands of cultures and languages and peoples and just stick them all in one tiny little box that says primitive communism. There's nothing primitive about the kind of communism that Lakota people were practicing. We weren't just winging it. We were active with each other. We were supportive with each other. we were wholesome and loyal, and yeah, there was a sense of nobility. There was, because there's a certain level of decorum that you have to treat other human beings with. And when you're talking about cultures, you're talking about um, the basic fundamental philosophies behind that culture. You're talking about the foundational core beliefs of that culture. And if you look at something like what came out of Europe with that Christian influence, you've got the Christian influence talking about how idle hands are the devil's playground. This is like one of the most common things I heard. Idle hands and being the devil and blah blah blah. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's because you have this weird fucked up shit about sex. And you like equate sex with the devil, and because you have nothing else to do, you fuck. And so you guys have decided that that's somehow evil. That's the devil getting into you. No, that's like stress getting out of you. Like that used to be one of the ways that we bonded with each other. It was an intimate way to share with each other, is to have that consensual sex with other human beings, and you didn't have to worry about who was married to who.
Okay, hippie.
But I mean, like, you're talking about entire cultures, whole philosophies that are just basically all stuck in the same box and just shoved off to the side, never talked about, and never reopened unless indigenous people come out of that box and try to shake people awake and go, there are entire cultures that teach the foundational philosophy that then supports communism, because there is a philosophy to communism. You have to look at your fellow human being and see the value in them. Just by virtue of being alive, they can offer you some sense of support, even if they are incapable of work. Let's say that they're an elderly person, or they are a particularly vulnerable person and they can't work. They can still offer you emotional support. And that is important. Being able to look at each other past even the vulnerabilities and see that there is positive aspects and what they can bring to the table. So while this person over here has a very strong body and they can work better than most people do, you've got this person over here who is especially vulnerable and can't even work half as hard as other people do. But between the two of them, they complement each other. And it works out for your entire society. You have two people more than you would have if you'd have just left them alone. Because big, hardworking dude doesn't really like human beings and doesn't want to be around them. Well, he could survive just fine on his own. He could, technically. But he actually brings something to the people. He brings that extra work. And someday when he's old, he'll be replaced by 2 or 3 kids who are extra working hard too. And that's how you, generation after generation, there's a foundational philosophy for that. And it requires human beings to be close, to be intimate, to be good friends. Like, just have this platonic communal bond with each other. And I think that religion, it caters to that, but it also warps it. It warps it so horrifically that from the same fucking religious book, you get the extremes of the Westboro Baptist assholes and the goddamn Quakers. I mean, could you have 2 different people out of the same religion? Well, not all religions do that. Not all philosophies do that. Not all cultures do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really hard to warp Lakota culture. Really difficult to warp Lakota culture.
They tried.
Even like the psychopath and the sociopath, natural born, no empathy whatsoever. But still in Lakota culture, they don't go batty. They don't start serial killing. They aren't doing all kinds of bad shit. they're living just fine with Lakota people because there's room for them too in that particular philosophy. Am I saying we need to go back to the way it was? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there are aspects of shit that we had back then that we need to figure out how to put back into now, and then figure out how we're going to like change the culture maybe first. Because if we get people thinking about how important other human beings are, no matter what we can get out of them, just see that they're a human and therefore they must be worth something, then we've got the foundation of communism, and communism just starts falling into place for you. Once you start giving a shit about every other human being on the planet, then communism kind of starts just falling into place for you. Because you start thinking, well, maybe we should take care of people. Yeah, that's literally communism.
I mean, David Graeber would always like. Well, one thing in his the May David Graeber rest in power in his book "Death: The First 5,000 Years." That's one of the three ways of like people always interact with each other. Communism, which he defined as like from each according to their ability, to each according to their need, just like Marx did. Hierarchy and exchange, those are the three modes of transactions of throughout culture. So he talked about like communism and that, but he also likes to describe how we interact with each other. We are all communists because say we're at the same workplace, as it were, even if we're working on two different projects, you would say to someone else, hey, can you hand me that wrench? And the other person would go, sure, here you go. That's a communist way to act, because the capitalist way to act will be, hey, can you hand me that wrench? Hey, what's in it for me?
Right. Give me a quarter and I will.
And that is literally how Ayn Rand envisioned her ideal society.
Objectivism. And then
they go to Gold's Gulch. Can I borrow your car? Sure. Yep. Here's a solid gold quarter. And now I can use your car. Now we're going to have really nasty sex.
Oh, God. It's just
for
like...
only one gold quarter? It's going to be that nasty.
No. After he borrowed the car, he took her back to his house. And then...
Going to be pretty much dry rub on the outside.
Well, you got to remember, this was written back in the 60s, so or the 50s.
Well, even. Touch it right at the end.
You could buy a gallon of milk for a quarter. I mean, I think a quarter would have gotten you handy.
Tommy also like mentioned on last night's stream, political stream, is just like the revolution, whatever that revolution is, TM, I say building a better society is going to be led by indigenous folks and people of color. It's especially if you look at like some of the mutual aid praxis kind of like work that's going on happening right now, as well as like the BLM protests. Some of those are being led by essentially old school Black Panthers that were there when the Black Panthers were a thing. And though they're still doing the work that we were doing before the FBI shot at them and shut them down, and I'm thinking, just like me as a white person, I should follow their lead and follow their example, and follow behind them as well, not being in front of them. It's their movement, as it were. I just like think that's the movement and a way to a better world, and I like to go into that better world.
Well, the nice thing about the Black Panthers, because I grew up around a lot of them too, is from everything that I remember, because I grew up with the American Indian movement all around me. We worked closely with a lot of the other different organizations that were civil rights movements, and those other folks too. When you get everyone into a group, two things happen. One, you start seeing that the same thought is kind of bubbling around in everyone's brain at the same time. The idea that decolonizing is so very core essential to figuring out not only just getting our civil rights, but also figuring out the way forward together. Because being oppressed and being marginalized, it's like when you have experienced being poor. When you do get ahead and you get a little extra money, you are more likely to share it than you are if you are a billionaire. Like, billionaires give this tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of their yearly income in just charity donations. Whereas the lower you go on the financial pyramid, when you get all the way down to people who are poor, I mean dirt poor, they are living in abject poverty. One tiny windfall, like maybe $500 comes in. Just $500 comes in. You watch them buy things for other people. They go to the grocery store and get a whole bunch of food. They have a nice big meal. They share it with everybody that they can find. They don't just hoard it. They don't just keep it for themselves. The less you have, the more likely you are to share, because you've experienced not having something. And how do we keep, like, we have to somehow figure out how we're going to prevent millionaires and billionaires, because obviously we can't leave it up to people's best judgment, because obviously humans' best judgment is still super shitty judgment. Because, I mean, how do you get to be a billionaire and not at the very least logically and reasonably look around you and figure out, holy fuck, these people are so mad, they're about to pick up like pitchforks and come at me in my mansion and take all my shit and set me to a guillotine. Like, look how mad they are. Like, there is something in it for them. Survival. Because you can only push human beings so far. We see this in history over and over and over again. You can only push them so far financially before they figured out, you know what? I was born on the planet. I own it just as much as anyone else. I deserve to eat. And then they go and they get it. And they typically forget all the differences they had between them and everyone else who's hungry. Like, eventually, these angry Trump supporters who are right, these white folks are going to forget that they're white. They're going to forget that other folks are black. They're going to forget that other folks are Latino. They're going to forget all the differences. And they're going to go, you know what? I'm hungry too. And then it's over for the elite. It's over. And you would think that they could see it like bubbling up to the surface right now as we speak. Because I'm not the only one who's mad and without any money this week.
1.5 million more people have applied for unemployment.
Yeah, it's so disappointing how the Democrats have stopped the Republicans from saving us all.
Right? They could be the heroes we need if we just let them.
Yeah, it's just weird.
They can't even say it with that levity. The heroes we need are us. Like, it's literally us. We are the heroes we need.
No heroes.
It's that simple.
Kill your heroes. And the rich. With Jonathan Smith.
I just want to prevent
uncoded messages over open channels. SAR free regulation 46.A.
The Antifa rulebook says.
We voted on it at the Antifa convention. God, that they think that Antifa is an actual organization.
Well, it is. My lieutenant has informed me of the larger structure and how much it costs George Soros to maintain our army.
Like even the FBI, when the FBI director actually like goes to testify and he is throwing his hands in the air, literally pleading with
The problem is the
Republicans.
white supremacists. Please, God, let us do something.
I mean, what 85% of like the police forces, law enforcement agencies and institutions across the country have been infiltrated by like white supremacists.
Yep. Yep.
Well, it's hard to infiltrate it when you formed it in the first place.
There's that too.
I mean, like the mindset, like that. It's just the mindset that you're gonna have. Also ends up being what attracts you to things like, you know, law enforcement. It just it does that whole, you know, I like to call it the alpha male, even though there's no such thing as an alpha male, because these motherfuckers, they might as well just use it on men. I mean, you know, they're the chuds. Might as well just use, you know, their alpha male terminology on them. Fine, go ahead, take it, because there's literally no such thing. Alpha male is the whiniest, crybabiest, like most puerile idea of what a quote unquote man is supposed to be. Like when I was growing up, Lakota men, the manlier you are, the better care you're taking of the vulnerable around you. Like that's what denotes a quote unquote real man. The better the man, the more care he's taking of the people around them. And so you see these great, like my dad, a Green Beret, like a POW for 18 months, he was stuck in a tiny little 3x5 bamboo cell. In Korea. Like, he's not a not tough guy. He's an actual tough guy with all of his army tattoos and all of his scars. And he picked up an infant just like every infant that he saw and just immediately devolved into and he fed babies and he cuddled them and he changed their diapers and he did all those things that if you talk to these alpha males right now, they
there's nothing gayer than a man having sex with a woman and making a baby.
I heard that one, simp. That's a new one that I've seen the Chuds using lately.
Yeah, this is
and
replacement
that's the
for beta.
one that they like somehow a manly man is just trying to act that way so he can get into a woman's panties. I'm like, oh my God.
No, that's why men become feminists. Yeah, that's the only reason.
You don't know my dad. I literally
It's projection, honestly.
Don't know how many half siblings I have. I don't know. I have no idea. It's double digit. I have double digit half siblings literally all over the world from my dad. If you want to get play, be the sensitive dude. Like, be the sensitive dude then. You will have women all over the place literally drop in their drawers to be with you because you are sensitive. It is such a change of pace from the chauvinistic, like misogynist, and the alpha male is just, the guys are just so ridiculous. Just so fucking ridiculous. Like, they never wash. There's no hygiene. There's like, oh my God, they're gross inside and out. And then they wonder why they can't get dates. And I'm like, you guys, like, women will look past the worst flaws in men. But like all of the women friends that I have who are straight, the men that they end up with, I am sitting over here going, holy fuck, I'm so glad that I'm closer to asexual than anything else. Because the dudes that you people are hooking up with, and then you complain. And we're not talking about they're just a bunch of bad boys. They're not a bunch of bad boys. There's just the kind of shit that women will put up with from men and still love them and still care for them and still stay with them and still be loyal to them. And you're just sitting over here going like, I don't even understand how there are incels. Like, change something.
They're seriously just that awful.
Yes.
Like, no. Change is gay. Change is totally gay. A real man is set in stone, hard as a rock. I mean,
so that in pun there was the culture was unintentional. But that's toxic masculinity in there, where it's just like the cisgender patriarchal norms like placed on men as well as like women. It forces like men to be the head of the household, and if you're not, or if you're not providing the best you can, you are feel less than a man, as it were. And yes, so much innuendo, and that's where it's just like that's where, and you're not allowed to be sensitive, and that's where it's kind of also just like it helps develop like low wolves, as it were, and like hatred and like women, because and the alt-right kind of like also like steers people away from thinking, no, it's not so like we shouldn't like break down the cisgender patriarchy, we should not embrace feminism, we got to like demonize women for being slutty. And the dog is moving around until
he just woke up. You can see his cone now.
The cone of shame. That's a good doggy.
He's such a sweet boy. He hates the cone, but he comes over and lets you put it on him because he's a good boy. Such a sweet boy. Yes, you are.
Aww.
Doggy. Need a break from the conversation, doggy. And you know, we haven't.
But you can't help it. Like, as soon as there is like a doggy or a kitty, or even a toddler, even human babies can be.
Because they are so much better than people.
I just saw the meme you like put in the chat. The left one, it takes away your penis. That, and it's like that could. I do not watch PragerU because it's best for everyone not to watch PragerU, but like that's probably is from a video PragerU video, or could easily be from one. I don't know where like parody starts and like reality begins.
It is.
I think the worst part about listening to these fucking MRA assholes is you end up like after, I don't know, maybe about the first 15-20 minutes of trying to explain to them over and over and over again, no, dude, like all of the problems in your life are actually coming from the patriarchy you're saying you want. Like all of your complaints, like your worst complaints as a man, are coming from the fucking patriarchy. Like they don't see how much pressure is put on them. Like they can't figure out that in oppressing, when you hurt somebody else, it is gonna boomerang back on you. It's gonna. Like you can't help but have that happen. You just can't. So if you're running around oppressing people, you're gonna hurt yourself while you're hurting them. And it may not be obvious, especially right at the beginning, especially if you think that you somehow deserve to be somehow better than all these other human beings. But after a while, you're going to realize that seeing yourself as being above other people and pushing everybody else lower than you actually ends up hurting you as well, because you're all alone up on that pedestal. Like, there's nobody up there with you. They're all somehow below you in your head. And then you feel like you don't have any friends.
Yes, there's a cat. Cat, Sasha. So yes, there that is a cat. Everyone, no, you're not.
Oh yeah, I see her back there.
Him,
Sasha and Wesley. Sasha the cat, Wesley.
You don't care.
Oh, that's true. Honestly, I was like, hey, someone said like she heard him referring to me, and I was like, oh, I don't care actually. It's he they, but it's because of my avatar before where it's like the trans anime trans anarcho socialist with the MA avatar. But we haven't like maybe mentioned why the title of the this week's
yes.
is only crime if the pigs
Aww.
misses. Oh wait, the cat's gonna be okay. Yeah. I'm watching the YouTube playback, so I didn't see you bringing over like Sasha.
He's all, no, I don't want to be seen.
Well, he does want to be seen. He loves playing around with the camera when I'm using it. He just doesn't like to be cuddled.
So cute.
But yeah,
I'll be right back. I gotta go grab something.
Okay.
So, the police officers who murdered Breonna Taylor
in her sleep,
the grand jury returned only one criminal count, only one indictment of wanton or reckless endangerment.
Yeah.
For the bullet that was fired through the wall instead of through her because it put her neighbors at danger. In other words, the only crime a cop can commit is not killing you.
Yeah, essentially, which is why there's been like massive protests in Louisville since that decision. And in fact, actually, the local precincts were like preparing for like massive protests like that and unrest happening because of that.
There were protests. The cops turned it into riots.
Yes, again. Because and there've been like 24 arrests like since last night or the other night when the curfew was enforced. Of course, they always do that, and yeah, it's just like, and that's why there's still been protests like for over a week because of course there'll still be protests. I mean, even with like Kenosha, Jacob Blake, even after months of protests of police brutality against like unarmed Black and brown people, there's still police brutality against unarmed Black and brown people, and so that's why no justice, no peace, and no racist police. People will be in the streets almost nightly until like the entire system of policing is either gets abolished or gets massively defunded.
And Fox News wants you to focus on the fact that a couple of cops got hurt. Which is a terrible, 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 terrible thing. I mean, those cops, they're just trying to help people. They're trying to help people. That's what cops are for.
Is helping people, but who are they helping? Which people, or who are considered people? Again, back to Bill O'Reilly saying the white power, the power structure of white Christian males. Fortunately, now, 13 years later, we have evidence now with like the Proud Boys, which are out in Portland, like now. So stay safe, comrades who are in Portland. There are so many people that are willing to kill to maintain the power structure of white Christian males. Kitty. And so that's what we have to fight out. So that's why I say, even if like Biden does win, we'll still have fascism because we'll still have like 60% of the population that wants fascism. It'll still be something that we have to fight against. But Biden and Harris also said
they would increase funding for the cops and don't be violent against the police. They've never done anything to deserve your anger.
They're here to protect us. And okay, if violence never the answer, Joe Biden. Comrade Ibot, hello. Tonight tonight is going to be hell. Stay safe there, Comrade Ibot. Comrade Ibot is from Portland. So. What was I about to say? Oh, that's right. Okay, since Joe Biden said violence is never answer, let's repeat that to him every single time he bombs or drones a Middle East country or something like that. And he's kind of like military action.
If violence isn't the answer, let's go ahead and take away police weapons.
And hey, Marty, join us for Jets.
I'm back.
Yeah, I don't care about what happens to the police at all. Yeah, I think a lot of people have like been more radicalized with the recent events. Oh yeah, see, a couple of cops got hurt. So it's like, oh yeah, that's right. There's watch a video of like, yeah, there's a lot of police brutality is happening all around. It's just like it is terrible. Oh, okay, that can. Well, I didn't. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. I also live in Seattle, a anarchist city. Oh no, I work in Seattle, live near Seattle. And anyway, so that's the recent news. And yeah.
Let's see, there was something else. Oh, right. Trump's nominee.
Yes. Oh.
Amy Cohen Barrett.
It's bad. It's really bad as you would think. She seems to be like a far right-wing activist judge.
She absolutely is. She's been in the courts for a couple of years now. We have her rulings. She is just the worst. She is a far right-wing activist who deliberately... She doesn't give a damn about the law. She crafts the opinions to get the results she wants, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, also, like, while we were hoping for like at least 4 Republican senators to like confirm that they were,
I had no confidence that would happen.
I had no confidence that would happen either. Because Susan Collins said that she will not vote, and said that she would wait until after elections. Senator Lisa Murkowski also said so, but Collins voted for to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. Well, Lisa Murkowski abstained from voting, but that didn't matter.
So brave.
Yeah,
I knew they were going through with all that shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we all knew.
As soon as she died, I was like, it's the reason that the first thing, as soon as I saw it, it was like, I think maybe 12 minutes old, the article that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And I posted it up and just went, fuck. Like, I did not like her views on indigenous people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was a colonizing bigot, like many.
Mm-hmm.
However, there is like something to be said about the fact that she wasn't gonna let Roe v. Wade get reversed. She wasn't gonna like set charges on the wall between church and state. There was
she was generally
a trust her with. And,
generally progressive.
Yeah, I mean generally.
But she's a small conservative as well.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I heard that she died, I knew what was coming, which was the reason that I was complaining. I knew it was coming. What was going to happen is they were going to find somebody to the right of Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And try to shove that person through. And I knew that was going to happen. And that, that's what partially what makes me so frustrated with people like Cory Booker talking about we're going to appeal to the decency. Not motherfucker. These people have
no. They're fascist.
By the motto of what can we get away with legally,
or illegally? Fuck legally. They're just what can we get away with?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I mean, it's like,
can we push this all the way to the Supreme Court so the Supreme Court then looks the other way while we literally gerrymander our way to power?
Then the Supreme Court has to like uphold that and uphold like disenfranchisement. Like that was like one of Kavanaugh's first like decisions of just like these indigenous people can just like be taken out the voter rolls or something like that. 10,000 of them were taken off their rolls. And people have been like all been pointing out trying to like take McConnell's words from 2016 and apply it to now, and I have to like constantly tell people because I guess many liberals just don't understand, especially since some liberals thinking that all we have to do is like everyone votes and then everything will be all right. Okay, what if everyone votes and the only 2 options is like Hitler and Mussolini? Then what good is that? Just everyone having to vote to do it anyway. That's a separate thing. It's a rant of its own, but liberals think that like pointing out, see, Mitch McConnell's being a hypocrite. He knows he's being a hypocrite. He doesn't care.
And like, why are we surprised now? They have been hypocrites for how long?
Ever.
Yeah, liberals are not paying attention. The liberals. It's still.
It's like it reminds me of Charlie Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time he goes to kick that football, Lucy sets him up. Every fucking time he goes running up there. Every time. Even when she's like, I promise, I'll let you kick the football. And Charlie Brown goes running up there. Pretty soon, he's ass over tea kettle on his back, laying there going, ah! And every time you see it, it's just like, why? Why do you keep doing the same thing then, dude? Like, just
because
stop.
liberals believe in the system.
They do, and that's why back in like during the primary, where like Biden was like one of everyone's like worst last choice of like a candidate. They would not vote. They would vote for so many other people like Cory Booker, like Julio.
Yeah, he was like my 10th choice.
Yeah, he was everyone's 10th choice on that list, only better than Michael Bloomberg, and that's damning with faint praise. But now that
yeah, exactly.
But it's his turn.
But now that Biden is a nominee, oh, look at his policies. He's so progressive. I just look at his policies. He wants to like hit the corporate tax rate to be back at 28%. Just 28%.
Said we'll have a seat at the table.
Yeah, it's and I read yesterday's Man in the Case Against Joe Biden. Joe Biden would work with the Republicans almost every time. Like when he was VP, he would call Mitch McConnell for whenever like Mitch McConnell there was a tiff or something like that. And every time Joe Biden basically talks to Mitch McConnell and said, what do you need? And yeah, Mitch McConnell will get whatever he needs. And so unless Mitch McConnell gets like voted out, which I doubt that because it's like he's running up against a pro-Trump Democrat, and it's just like I doubt it. And so if the Republicans maintain a majority in the Senate and win back the House if they could, even if Biden gets the office, I really don't think that there's going to be much change or progress. And also, I understand that, like, yes, it's probably easier to constantly protest against Biden as opposed to constantly protest against Trump, because Trump is not, at least Biden won't actively encourage, like, the Proud Boys, the Boogaloos, and all these other, like, far-right groups to, like, commit violence. So there is that. And Biden probably would handle COVID-19 much better than Trump does. Yes, I understand all that.
Yeah, but we'll get half the activists out there in the fucking streets because most people are going to go, I did what I had to do. I washed my hands of the situation now. I voted for Biden. He's in, so everything's fine.
I do know many people who like always champion vote claim that they'll still be out on the streets. I'll wait and see. I'm not holding my breath. I'll wait and see. Yeah, I half believe them and don't really. Yeah, Lindsey Graham might lose in South Carolina.
I hope we can get rid of that motherfucker.
Mm-hmm. What wasn't it?
And then he set up Harris to be his second, and that's the one that's pissing me off most because I'm watching.
I'm having trouble hearing you, Joey. Could you move closer to your mic?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we can.
Right. Okay, good. I'm getting so pissed off at a whole lot of progressives that I'm seeing that are doing the whole, well, you know, Harris has a really great progressive record. She's a progressive. And I'm like, no, she's not. She's a moderate. She's not a centrist, but she's a moderate. She is not a progressive. Progressive is literally Bernie Sanders. That's progressive. That is progressive.
I mean,
in the United States, that's progressive. Because if you went to Europe, of course, Bernie's a moderate. Like in Europe, Bernie's a moderate.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Liberals, if you say that like Kamala Harris is right wing, I agree with you. I'll give Kamala Harris that she's a moderate, not right wing. But I definitely say that Biden's a conservative. But you say that to liberals, they will get upset with you because.
Ooh, yeah, no shit.
Is because no, Biden's a progressive. Look at his policies, and then they'll get upset at you. It's like, do you want Trump to win 4 more years? And then, I hate that disingenuous question. No, we don't, but we think that there's more to them voting than more. There should be a lot be done because voting only happens once every 14 and 58 days. Come on, what are you doing for the rest of the time? And again, there was hold on, I want to go back and try to go back to my brain, like Biden, if he wins and he gets a president, damn it, my train of thought, where was I going? Trying to go back, trying to think, but nothing happens.
It's like you're a Republican.
like a Republican. But I don't want power, so I'm definitely not a Republican. I don't want power.
I taught the Republican.
Biden winning. What's the like rules? Some say.
I'm gonna use that from now on. When my brain just like drifts off, I'm gonna say, "Oh, I had a Republican."
I had a brain fog. I had a Republican. Oh, that's it. The liberals think that we can push Biden further left. That's their hope, honestly, because I have to say, come on, did we push Obama further left? Most of us weren't trying, of course, but like, because we thought that he was a hope and change candidate, so it was like, yes, we can.
It would be easier to push Trump further left. Honestly, I mean, because I keep, like, one of the things I think that's really frustrating watching how people are handling Trump, you could actually make him into a leftist president. You could, if you could get in the room with him, if you know what to say, to get, like, if you know how to get to that guy's ego, if you could guarantee him, I could make you the favorite president ever in the history of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
If you just do what I tell you to do, and you could guarantee him that, he would do whatever the fuck you told him to do. Because that's how you get to that guy. It's just his ego. He doesn't give a fuck about anybody else. But that means it is so easy to get him to do what you want him to do. You just have to cater to his ego. And if you can get in there with, you know what? I can make you the most popular president ever in the history of the United States. Even black people will vote for you. If you could actually, and then all you really have to do is steer him hard left. Go right.
Except at this point, that would mean getting him to abandon
Bernie.
the.
Like, he would have to suddenly get on the bandwagon with universal health care, fully legalizing marijuana across the United States federally. Let's see, what else? If you want, because his base, there's things that his base want that are actually in common with the far left. And that was the reason Bernie was going to win if he could get past the Democrats in the primary. Like, he was a shoo-in to win. He would have shaken Trump's base up. And
you got to remember that Trump really excited and called out neo-Nazis and the KKK. That was why he got his surprise victories in the swing states.
Yes, but the KKK
and Bernie Sanders is a Jew.
KKK is willing to vote for anybody who's going to give them health care and marijuana. Like, they're so hurting in red states right now. It's the one way to get through. Like, if you went around my house right now and you talked to the 4 neighbors directly around me, 3 of those neighbors are Trump supporters. They switched over from Bernie Sanders supporters. The reason they wanted Bernie Sanders is because even though, I'm doing air quotes, even though Bernie is a socialist, it's what he was willing to use our taxpayer dollars to do. They wanted free education. They wanted universal health care that includes mental and dental and vision. They wanted those things. They were like, Bernie was like, yep, first day in, the first piece of paper I'm going to sign is going to be legalizing marijuana. Half of my state went, woo! And they're a bunch of libertarians. They're federalists. They're John Birchers, some of them. Like, some of these people are literally in white supremacist organizations.
You mean police?
And they were ready to vote for Bernie because Bernie was giving them the things that they absolutely needed in their lives. And they were hoping somebody was going to give them. And they thought Trump was going to do it, and then Trump did it. That's how he got to them the first time through, because he was talking about my healthcare plan. It's going to be better. It's going to be more like. Like, he was talking about it at first. Now he's just gotten to their bigotry, but you can get past their bigotry. There's only one way to get past somebody's hate. And that's to get what terrifies them the most. And what terrifies these people the most right now is dying sick. That's what's terrifying these people the most right now. I mean, in my state, the number one money-making thing in my state is tourism. The second biggest industry in my state is healthcare. Healthcare is huge in my state, absolutely massive. More than any other industry, they employ more people in my state. Like, people come from all over the place just to go to the hospital here, because in my state, we're like, I'm sitting in the middle of desolate areas with like nothing, just a bunch of like fucking cattle and pigs and farms. Like, that's what's mostly in my state. So you have to drive a long way to go for healthcare. Healthcare is taken seriously here. It's really expensive. And people really, really, really want universal healthcare here. You could get to them just on that alone as a presidential candidate. And that is why they were willing to vote for Bernie. They wanted Bernie over Trump both times. Like, Bernie would have been a shoo-in. He would have looked like he had a mandate, because he would have taken red states. We would have looked at red states that for a moment turned blue when they voted for a quote-unquote Democratic president, because they were happy that he wasn't a normal Democrat. They were happy he wasn't a Democrat at all. It was the liberals who were pissed that Bernie wasn't a Democrat. We had to get past the liberals. And that's where we failed. We couldn't get past the fucking liberals.
The establishment, conservative, Pelosi Democrats.
Pelosi and Schumer Democrats. How are we going to pay for it? And then
that's all the pro-corporate bullshit.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not confident that like Biden is going to enact any change or be progressive as
He's
ever.
Not.
Because like only if Wall Street will be okay with universal healthcare, universal basic income, whatever we want as actual progressive policies, that's the only way that like change will happen. Is when when Wall Street says that like it will happen with the system we have now, which is why you can't have democracy under capitalism.
Well, we have to get them to kowtow.
I think we can get Biden to do what we need if we can get enough down ballot voting for people like the Squad.
Yeah, that's true.
If we can take the Senate,
and also if we pour out into the streets, or we manage to get a general strike organized, then we can push anybody left. That's the truth. If we can get a nationwide general strike, where literally everybody sits down and goes, nobody's going to work.
The problem is that like America is one paycheck away from starvation. We literally
exactly. That's the issue. And so instead of like people going, okay, fine, since I'm only one paycheck away from being starving, let's do a general strike and we're gonna go raid the grocery stores.
Marty,
we're gonna do this. Let's just all communally loot. It's ours anyway, right?
Marty Afnafty is saying that like Bernie did lost people of color vote. Bernie did lose older people of color vote in the South and that is
Bernie's people of color block was the under 40s. If you look at the under 40s in Bernie's, there were huge amounts of youth of color.
Well, not this.
It was the old brown folks that were like, Bernie, he just another old white man.
And also Bernie at least could have like reached out to that
community. As a Gen Xer, by the way.
Okay, yeah. Bernie's also Gen X too.
Bernie also did a lot better in 2016, and it looks like misogyny had a lot to do with that. If Warren had been able to stay in the race and push out Biden, then misogyny might have given Bernie a better chance of securing the nomination this time around too. That's the sort of calculus you don't like to do.
I I didn't want to see. Okay, so unlike a lot of indigenous people, I actually understand what happened to Elizabeth Warren. I know just how that happens. And so I do not hold against her any claims that she made to being indigenous. And so, yes, I still like Elizabeth Warren just fine. She's a slightly to the right of Bernie, but still a good, solid progressive. I loathed that she decided to run against Bernie, because that's how I saw that. I saw her as literally running against Bernie.
Yeah, they really split the progressive wing, I think.
Run.
Yeah,
Bernie,
I think they
Bernie
really
like Bernie literally said, asked her if she was going to run, and she said no, and so he ran. That was the first time. When Bernie made the point about people not being ready for a woman, he was stating a fact. We already saw what happened with Hillary. And I hate to say it, because I come from a culture of matriarchs. But it's true. This patriarchy is still not ready for a woman. They'd rather a black man than any woman. There are still huge portions of the United States that honestly believe that women cannot lead. Is there a point in saying that until we break that glass ceiling, it's going to remain there? Yes, there is a point in saying that. But there is also a point in saying right now, with the way that the world is, with the priorities that we have to set for ourselves as a species, the most important priority is the environment. It isn't even humans. The second most important priority is humans' well-being, because we can't fix the shit that we fucked up if we're not healthy enough to fix it. And so, when you start narrowing that down in terms of priority, you are basically left among all the Democrats with two candidates. Two. Warren and Sanders. That was it. If you're talking about priorities, you were left with two. Fuck the rest of everything else. Does Trump have to be beat? Yes. Would most people literally vote for a cat's hairball over this guy at this point? Also, yes. We're ready for literally anybody else. The Republicans were going to call everybody socialist. It wouldn't have mattered if it was Sanders or Warren. They would have called everybody socialist.
That's why we had the Democrat clown car this time around. Just like we had the Republican clown car in, what was it, 2012?
In 2016, yeah.
And then we got Bloomberg, too, because all of those assholes, with all of their money, were so fucking scared of both Warren and Sanders. They managed to split the progressives. It's so easy to split the left anyway. It's so easy to split the left. Really, all you have to do is go in a big group and holler out, who's better, Marx or Tolstoy? And boom, you got a big old lefty argument.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Everybody mad, and they're just mad at each other in the room. It's so easy to split lefties, and all they had to do was pit Warren against Sanders, and suddenly you got 51% of the women and 49% of the men going at each other, going, "It's misogyny." Nuh-uh. Uh-huh. Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's always misogyny. Misogyny is all the time.
And so neither one of them won.
Sadly, but also, this Marty's been saying you have to win elections, and I do agree with Marty's assessment that she has said a couple in other places that Bernie. Yes, there was a lot of problems. The DNC like tipping the scales and doing all those kind of stuff things, but Bernie could at least give himself the best chance to like win the primary by like at least reaching out to like queer folks or reaching out to like people of color, and he didn't. And that is a fault of his.
Didn't get coverage. It didn't get coverage.
What do you say?
He reached out to all those people, and it never got coverage. Just got lied about in the media.
I heard conflicting things about that. But then again, also like there's ways that he could have done his campaign.
I can give you links.
Okay. But also there's like
he saw over 100. Over 100. This is the first time. Nobody even did double digits before in making appearances to different indigenous nations across the United States.
Okay, to indigenous
nations. He did over 100. Him alone. He sent Jane to do another 100. He was talking to black people in those areas because indigenous people, we aren't just indigenous. We're also black. Like hundreds of tribes literally adopted black people in as slaves, let them free among our people. They married in. We bought them so they could be freed. We harbored them when they ran away. Like, I mean, there's tons of black blood in indigenous people too. Yes, he was all over people of color. And I posted about it, and tons of other people posted about it who are people of color. And so young people who were online all the time, who were also people of color, saw what he was doing, and they tried to talk to their elders who were walking around all mad. Do you know what Bernie Sanders did, the first president to ever do, or first presidential candidate to ever do this? He actually sought out the two-spirit vote. Specifically, the two-spirit vote. Nobody ever does that. Nobody. The closest you get are people who are indigenous, like Deb Haaland and Sharice Davis. You don't get why people coming over trying to talk to indigenous people and two-spirit people. Just because the media didn't cover what he was doing doesn't mean he wasn't doing it. He just didn't get
They were too busy looking at Trump.
Well, and they were also
coverage.
too busy like listening to corporate people who were like, we got to do something about Sanders. What can we do to stop this guy? I know. Let's pull out the most ridiculous thing ever and claim that the guy who would potentially be the first Jewish president ever in the history of the United States is a bigot. Let's paint him with that. Never mind his ancient and long-standing support for oppressed peoples for literally decades before anybody got on any bandwagons. Never mind all that. We're going to just discount that because he's a white dude. And
well, is he really white?
Yeah, well then it must be misogyny.
Well, if we can, I think like there's like things he did do and things he didn't do, and it's like, unfortunately, the results are of the election. Honestly, it is because like once Biden like they won South Carolina or had good results, then like, and also I think remember because also in the media they would never say who was like number one in the states. They'll say who's number 2, number 3, and number 4, but also then they'll see the moderates got 52% of the votes when it's like 3 people that were clumped together. They kind of realized, okay, we just need all those moderates to be in like one candidate, and they selected Biden, and then there's like, and that's where it's like, yeah, and then it became between like Biden versus Bernie, and so yeah, then it's like, I guess one debate.
Like, that is the shit that we have to be aware that is happening now, so we can figure out how to fucking counter it in the future. Because what happens if it just so happens that the next progressive...
Hello, people!
Hello, Joanna!
Hello!
This is our friend Joanna Roberts, who's been in the chat.
A random Mexican has appeared.
Yes, and that's
A
technically
priestess of Lolth.
Right on.
I have to say I'm more into the butterflies, which are the souls of our dead returned to Earth.
The priestess of Wolf.
And our screen, we can hear the stream in the background.
Yeah, so mute the stream so we don't keep echoing.
No, you just muted yourself now. Yeah, well, anyway, when you want to talk, just like unmute your microphone and we can talk. Because I love to hear from you. Everyone, this is our friend Joanna Roberts. This is the person that I've been like that I would spam her like Big and Bowl and charity links, and it's her Big and Bowl is in the charity links, which I'm going to like paste into the live chat right now. And I've known her for like 3 years, and her poverty is what has radicalized me further.
Yeah, my life kind of sucks, but I can tell you guys all about that later if you're interested. However, I'm just here to more poke in and be like, yeah, shit sucks for Mexicans and Pueblos too.
But yeah, I think we have to actually discuss all this shit. What went wrong with Bernie's campaign, and what went right, and what didn't get covered, and what got flat out lied about. Because we have to be prepared. Like, we're talking about the survival of the freaking species at this point. And a very small selection of human beings that actually see that. And we're the ones busy arguing over what we should and shouldn't do, over what was done and not done.
Yeah, but Joe Biden is a raving, rabid socialist. I mean, he is extreme far left.
And I don't know if we need to like actually put up a raving freaking, like, I don't know, maybe go to the far extreme and put up like a communist just so they quit comparing them. Or I don't know, how else do we counter that message in the media? Because that's one of the biggest issues right now is media. One of the biggest issues we've got against us as lefties is media. Not just how we're portrayed in the media, but how our candidates are portrayed in the media. And just how quick even other lefties will be to jump on a bandwagon and just believe something because it's something we already wanted to believe.
Yeah.
Like, we also, like, it just seems like on the left, you hear a lot of people talking about critical thinking skills and how you need to look past things and how you need to look past your own biases and how you need to work on those things. And then we don't do it. We just assume that we already have. We assume in this instance, we must be right by virtue of being right because we just want to believe it. How is that any different from a religion? Like, how is that any different from like fascism? They're just literally believing what they want to believe. They're not questioning themselves. And yet we're doing it over on the left too. Like, are we better about it? Yeah. Like, we question a lot more on the left than they do on the right, obviously. Like, they're authoritarians over there. They prefer to be told what to think. Over on the left, we have a shitpot full of anti-authoritarians. They really don't like being told what to think. It's difficult for me to support anybody when it comes to politics. I am super picky about who I'll support in terms of politics. When it came to Bernie and Warren, they were my compromise candidates. Like, I'm way farther left than they are. Like, they were my compromise. Like, they were, when I looked at them, I'm like, they're a step in the right direction. They're nowhere near as far as I feel like we need to go. You know, and so like Biden, oh my God. Yeah, he came into my list as like number 10, if not 12 or 15.
I mean, it's like if I do vote for him or like he becomes the president, I'm still not excited about it, which is why I kept on reading that book as I mentioned, even when it became between like Biden and Bernie, as it were, or it eventually became Biden, because like, okay, I want to prepare for like what might happen if Biden's president.
I would have liked to see Castro get forward too, because Castro was good.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good candidate.
I love your hat. Secondly, Biden getting the nomination just proves how dedicated Democrats are to absolutely nothing changing.
Yeah, that was.
Yep.
Yeah, we all know that is because they don't really want like to improve the system. I try to like tell people, listen, if you really want to get rid of poverty, you have to get rid of like capitalism, and which also decolonize as well. On top of that, but people will still think that like no unregulated no controlled capitalism is bad, but controlled regulated capitalism is okay. And it's like, I'll believe it when I'll see it.
I was talking to somebody about the Scandinavian model the other day, and they're like, well, the Scandinavians are still capitalist. And I say, you know how I think about the Scandinavians? I think about paint mixing. How much blue do you have to mix into white before it is now blue? Just a different shade.
7.
Because that is exactly what the Scandinavians are doing. They are essentially socialists who are clinging to the word capitalism because they don't want to admit that shit don't work.
Mm-hmm.
It just don't work. Just give it up at this point.
Also, the Scandinavian model also relies upon income from colonized countries.
That and the ricos also fucking love the dream of being rich. It's eating their brains.
And they still mistreat their indigenous population as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, I will refer to you guys all as gringos. Mwahaha.
Yeah.
Well, except for Joey, who's not a gringo.
Yes, I am not a gringo.
I mean, yes, I'm a white person that says like white people should be canceled. Just ban whiteness.
Well, as soon as you guys go back to your tribal roots, you're not white anymore.
Only there's that.
Because when I look at the Sami, I do not think white people. And they are all of them like super light hair, really pale skin, blue eyes. Like, I don't know if anybody's ever seen the Sami before, but they're cool people too. They come over, like if we need help over here, the Sami show up. When the Sami need help over there, we show up over there. Like there's an international indigenous, like a loose coalition of indigenous peoples all across the world. And we tend to work together on each other's issues. And the Sami, they have the same issues we have over here. It usually has to do with exploitation of fossil fuels, pipelines.
They're losing a lot of their reindeer land to capitalism.
Yeah, a lot of hunting and fishing rights, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And their reindeer need a lot of land. Oh my god, they're so pretty though.
Oh, they're such nice animals too. Oh my god, the way they domesticate up, they're like giant, like friendly puppies.
Oh my goodness.
So the one thing that Frozen got right.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I haven't actually seen the second one.
I'm still mad that Frozen, like Disney did not try to copyright anything Sami after trying to fucking copyright the Dia de los Muertos. I'm still fucking pissed about that. I will always be pissed about that. You do not get to copyright Dia de los Muertos.
Right.
You mean trademark?
Mm-hmm. They tried to trademark it when they did Coco. They owned the Day of the Dead. They owned it as a holiday.
Like, I don't know what's worse. Like, when I think back to, like, when I was a kid and looking at Disney was, like, fucking horrific about the bigotry in it. It was so bad. Like, so bad.
Oh, God.
And then, like, you fast forward and have they gotten better about the culture? Yes, they have. But now they're trying to copyright our cultures.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the fuck?
Or that Maui skin suit?
Yes. Like, It's just like, okay, Disney, I'm glad that you're getting a little bit more woke, but can we go the full measure? And can you actually ask for, I don't know, permission first? Like, because like this whole business about we are going to make a movie, and because we are going to make this movie, we have come to consult you on your culture.
You're welcome.
To make a movie of. Yeah, exactly. You're welcome, but we'll pay you a little bit. Like, it's ridiculous.
Oh,
and then we can paint with all the colors of the wind.
Does anybody here also listen to Behind the Bastards?
I have, yes. I haven't like listened.
The Origins of the Cops. That's all I've listened to.
Last couple of weeks have been Mark Zuckerberg. You guys have to listen. It's fucking terrifying. And he apparently imagines himself as Augustus Caesar, like right down to wanting to have an empire and not caring what he has to do to get it.
I'm not surprised with some of these people who like get to those positions of power.
Caesar was popular.
Well, because he hired propaganda.
And Mark Zuckerberg has our data and it's fine with like the far right and all right, like using things and target advertisements and all, and yeah.
You should very much check out Behind the Bastards of Robert Evans. He's been doing ground reporting out in Portland. He's been getting gassed almost every night trying to bring stuff out. He puts it on Twitter, and he does publish articles and stuff as well.
Cool. Yeah, I listened to like all Behind the Police, which is like the offshoot they like did about that, and it's really, really cool. I have like It Could Happen Here up in my podcast queue, but I have like
that one's good and scary, and right now it feels prophetic.
Yeah, that's why it's in my podcast queue right now. But like, I haven't listened to like all of Behind the Bastards, but I have been listening to it. I did listen to the one with Osama bin Laden and the interesting porn that he has on his hard drive.
Oh yeah, the anime stuff.
Yeah, the anime stuff, like Bible Black.
Yeah.
Of course, I would like that. The guy who talks about tentacle porn.
Well, that's a good show. There's also QAnon Anonymous, which is a podcast, and they break down conspiracy theories. They're not pro QAnon. I'm not saying anybody do QAnon crap. Don't worry. They are anti QAnon. They like dive into it. They're really hilarious. Unfortunately, they do have some of their episodes behind a paywall because they're doing Patreon, and their alien sex episode was behind a paywall. So I did like $5 Patreon donation so I can listen to that one.
I mean, it's about alien sex, so of course we had to like listen about alien sex.
Yeah, people who claim to have sex with aliens. It was just hilarious. I loved it. It was so funny.
Yeah. What else? What other like media have we been like catching up with or been watching? Because we have already mentioned Disney and podcasts that we listen to, or like so. Any video games, any movies, any TV shows and stuff like that have we been watching?
I've been playing the shit out of the Tony Hawk 1 and 2 that just got released.
Oh, okay, the remasters.
Yes.
Just got released.
Playing Outward, Starbound, and Monster Hunter, just depending on what my mood is. And also Among Us, which my son, and one of my friends made me get, so I could like capture imposters, I guess.
I've not played Among Us yet, but I've like seen Taffy and Groundhog who were in the chat earlier. I have seen them like stream Among Us, and it looks really fun. And yes, Joe, I have seen the Folding Ideas video on Flat Earth. That was a really good like documentary they did.
Yeah, that one quote from that podcast in there, that's the QAnon Anonymous guys. I think he had like played a quote by Travis View.
Yeah, yes, they are like they're using their will. The only tool they have is will, and they're using it like a hammer. And when all you have is a hammer, you see everything as a nail. And so they're using their will against all of the problems in the world to hammer them down into a flat Earth. And it's just like, so if I meet anyone that is like a QAnon person, I'll be like, how the hell you are able to have like be able to like a whole degree as well, and all this again compartmentalization. I guess it's just like I haven't, Jordan. I haven't
people believe dumb things all the time. My late dad, who had 175 IQ, legit believed the copper bracelet he wore on his wrist would cure his heart problem.
And I'm wondering, it's like a desire to like just believe in something even when evidence are presented that is not true. I guess that is the case. That's definitely a human thing as well. I have not played Fall Guys at all, actually. Jordan P's been playing Fall Guys. That's been streamed a lot on like Twitch, I think.
Time to close up these tortillas. Good bread, as opposed to the white people bread, which I also eat a lot of.
Most popular food in the world. Bread.
Well, then again, America doesn't have bread. According to Julie, we have brioche. It is the sweet bread.
No, sweetbreads are organs from inside the animal. Sweetbreads, I think, is the name for like the thalamus and a couple of other, or not the thalamus, the thyroid, a couple of other glands and stuff.
I don't have. Oh wait, we haven't mentioned this thing, but like back to terrible news. But the person that is like Trump's top pick to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
Amy Cohen Barrett.
As I got a link to the Mark St. Now article on it. Yeah, she's part of like People of Prayer,
a far right wing Catholic group.
Yes.
Oh,
basically,
God.
if you think of The Handmaid's Tale, People's Prayer was kind of one of those groups that the author of The Handmaid's Tale based off of.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so if like
I hate sellouts like that, because that's how I see them. I always see them like sellouts.
Oh my God, you guys want to hear a fun story in video analysis, or me watching videos about video analysis? This one really ticked me off. I just discovered Rammstein released a new album last year, right? So I've been watching analysis of the video Deutschland, which covers, German history, and of course, I cover the Holocaust and everything, because you can't talk about German history without doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm watching this video, which also has scenes of the Red Army faction, the RAF, right? Doing the kidnappings and everything they did in the 70s and 80s. And these guys are sitting there talking about it. And like halfway through the video, after just one moment of saying Nazis are bad, they go into like a 3-paragraph long screed about Antifa, far left activists, and how they shouldn't be owning iPads and iPhones. I think I stopped the video right about there. Like, nope.
Oh my God. That's when you have to put the air quotes around the word logic.
Oh yeah, the thing is, they were talking about Antifa being far left, and what killed me is they had actual examples of far left terrorists in that video. They could have gone with the Red Army faction and talked about them. And even the Red Army faction is more justified than some other terrorist groups out there. Because a lot of them are working with the Palestinian Liberation Front too.
God, I remember talking with my mom actually fairly recently. Now, my mom has historically been a socialist. For whatever reason, she got it in her head that communism is like, when you say the word communism, she thinks of like Stalin, just instantly. She thinks of like, and not even Stalin as an actual human being, like objectively looking at the dude's life, but the Western propagandized version of Stalin.
Well,
It's
Stalin
like,
was a communist, but he
bad.
wasn't a human being. He was actually an angel sent by communist God.
There is no communist God.
He was really bad at communism then for being an angel sent to enforce communism. Holy crap!
So,
Failed.
like, I'm having this discussion with my fucking mom, like my mom of all people, she's in her 70s now. And I'm trying to explain to her what the difference is in the fascist version of communism that people keep pointing to and thinking it exists. And the difference between that and anarchist communism, which has not been tried in, depending on where you're from, anywhere between, like for Lakota, it would be about 150 years ago, to possibly millennia, depending on where you're at. If you're someplace like China, of course, China has been imperial China for millennia. If you want to talk about the longest lasting imperialistic culture,
China
that has been able to stay afloat without fucking their own selves up, have to look at China.
China.
And it's same shit, different day when it comes to China. They have the empire, they just don't call it that.
Oh
yeah,
my
they
God,
don't call it that anymore.
Have to explain to effing tankies that yes, China does genocide right now and has a history of genocide going back thousands of years, where whenever one ethnic group gets in power, they tend to wipe out everyone else around.
They're still imperialists.
What's going on?
They are still imperialists, and they still do genocide. And you're like, do they have communism
right now?
Yeah, but they also have a fascist version of communism that enables that genocide. When you do an anarchist version of communism, you don't get that genocide because there's no point in marauding and slaughtering your neighbor. You fold them in to work with them because the more the merrier. You're just bringing in new skills and new ideas. When you start, like, when you're talking about anarchist communism, the anarchist part becomes the key to it. It becomes the philosophy behind the communism. It's easy to keep a communistic system with anarchy involved. And then, yes, it's super easy to have democracy. In such a system, it's so easy to have a democracy because you literally have one person, one vote. You have this giant room full of people, essentially, that you're saying, okay, yays and nays. What are we doing here? How are we spending our money? How are we spending our time? How are we spending our, who's going to manage us?
But what about our social capital?
Like, I mean, like stuff like that, that kind of philosophical change, and having to explain that to my mom in her 70s and get her to conceptualize that we're just putting words on things that were old and worked just fine and can work again. And no, we're not going to lose technology and toilet paper because capitalism. In fact, I'm pretty sure that recent situations have shown us that capitalism does not actually protect us from loss of toilet paper. It doesn't actually. Because as soon as all those capitalists run on the fucking store, there still is no toilet paper. Then you're forced to go on Amazon and buy bidets.
People don't have clean asses.
Like, the thing is that there's no guarantees on anybody's system, but when it comes to capitalism, there is literally no incentive to prepare for the eventual emergency. There's no incentive for it.
Oh, there is incentive for emergencies. The incentive is to scalp the price of fucking everything and make it.
Exactly. It's instead you're exploiting an emergency rather than figuring out a way to get through it with sharing. Like, capitalism it makes everybody
an asshole.
I hate it when people say the word hustler and make it sound like it's a good word. I don't like that. I don't like it because that's not the kind of value you actually want in the world. Like, it's better to have the value that, people are sharing, that we're taking care of each other, that when you are vulnerable, we will be there for you. And that is why, while you're not vulnerable and you're actually privileged, you use that privilege to help the vulnerable, because someday that could be you. And if it's never you, hey, good on you. I'm glad you had that life. That's cool. But that doesn't mean that the person who's severely unlucky and didn't have that life from the get-go doesn't deserve some quality of life. And I would like that to be the case for everybody, so we're not picking and choosing who gets support.
I don't know. Sounds kind of gay.
It should be a... And I think we can actually do that and still hold on to our gender hoods. Unless, of course, you're genderless, in which case, feel free to disperse your portions of gender to those who want more.
From each according to their gender to each according to their lack of gender.
Exactly.
I'll trade you this cow for 3 gender units, please.
Which gender do you want? I got gender queer, demi-non-binary, gender fluid, gender flux. What do you want?
Oh my God, who knew that Teen Vogue was going to be the
the voice of the revolution.
Yeah, it's because that one author, that one writer, that she does like actual political action as well, and like goes out and protests and like organize with like local groups. And yeah, she is badass. But she just the Team Vogue just allows that one author to just like write the no class blog and will write articles like how is Americans Labor Day? Yeah, it's just a hoax. It's just a government scam, as it were, because you want to know about the real Labor Day and just
the one in May that's based on the Haymarket massacre and
educates people on all of that. Yeah.
Well, they can't have the proletariat uniting because I mean, we are literally the proletariat across the world. It doesn't matter what your daily income is and how much you have to spend. The proletariat is the same all over the place. Like, it just is. I mean, they're the lowest portion on the pyramid scheme. Literally everything is dependent on the proletariat. We have all the power, and yet we never exercise it. Because we all sit there individually going, I'm such a powerless little person. Mm-hmm. Instead of realizing that together, we literally build civilizations. Mm-hmm. Like, it's us. It's not our management. Like, in a capitalist system, your proletariat is literally getting paid bare minimum and getting exploited so that their labor, a portion of their labor, is going to pay people to tell them how to work. Like, why are we not reversing this? Why are we not going with something more like co-ops, where all the employees own it, and then they vote on who they want to be their manager? And if they don't like their boss, they fire their boss. Like, why are we not doing that? That's bringing democracy into the workplace.
That's chaos. Nobody would ever work again. They would just steal money.
Come on. You know why they're not doing that. The bosses like to be bosses and be fucking rich and fucking tell people what to do and whip their goddamn backs all the time. Mm-hmm. That's exactly why. I may have to take off here in a few minutes. What? Oh, it's not cut? I'll cut it. Sorry, my kid sandwich just got here and they didn't cut it in half. Gosh darn it. I'll have to do that for him.
Okay.
Are you sure? Okay. I got my son here with me. Very tiny apartment.
Hello.
Hello.
You can kind of hear him in the background.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we've been doing this for about 2 hours. I'm starting to fade, and I think it's Wesley needs to go for a walk.
All right, then.
It's time for me to indulge in traditional Mexican medicine, i.e. lots and lots of 420. Mm. Hey, it is traditional Mexican. Hell, they even still use a racist word for it here.
Marijuana?
Marijuana is not cool, honey. They stole the word and made it racist.
Yeah, we used to trade the industrial kind for the smoking kind.
Yep.
Because the industrial kind grows really well up here.
Mm. Yep, and the smoking kind grows really well further down south. So there were lots of tree lines going up and down. So like those routes that all these right-wingers are getting so pissed off about, they're routes that our people have been going to talk to each other for thousands of years.
Yeah, literally walking back and forth because, hello, we're all related.
I call you guys my northern cousins, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't racism here because you just got the super, super light, like, Inupiaq way the fuck up north. And then you got the super, super dark, like, you know, Aztecs down across the...
Which is absolutely hilarious because I fucking pass. Thank you, Spain, because now whenever we get one extra drop of white people in us, we come up looking like we've been fucking bleached.
Damn white people. Damn white people.
My dad was the fucking king of the gringos. I have so many weird stories about him. Like, I was listening to Mana one day, and he comes in and goes, "Hey, what's with the spick music, honey?" I'm like, what the fuck?
So anyway, that's the marijuana being used as like the word for like pot and weed was like Richard Nixon's design because he wanted people to associate the drug with a Latin source name and stoke up people's racism and justify the war. War on drugs and everything. Anyway, so we'll close out the show. Thank you, Joanna Roberts, our friend, and thank you, Joey, our friend, for coming on.
Godzilla.
Godzilla, thank you, Godzilla, and thank you, Joey, the Indigenous Heretic. I'm Summer and the Geek on YouTube, where I did post up a video. It's like a re-upload of a stream I did on Sunday, where I read the introduction and preface of Direct Action and Iconography by David Graeber. It's a good video, good chat that I had there. So check it out. Check me out on Twitch as well if I'm able to stream again, and on Twitter again, 3s instead of E's in Summer and the Geek, Summer and Geek everywhere on those platforms. I'm done with my pitches, John.
I am going to be recording yet another episode of my Dungeons and Dragons podcast tomorrow. It's called Dungeons and Debacles, hosted by my friend Kevin. We are trying to save the world of Suel from a radical cult of criminal dipshits.
The Red Talons, right?
Yes. The Red Talons. They serve the ancient red dragon Ruinaxis, and they're trying to release her from the abyss, which would be bad. Because she fought the whole world and almost won. All right. I believe that's everything.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to be recording more chemistry lectures tonight because that is my life at the moment. All right. Thank you for joining us, Joey and Joe.
Hey, chemistry is fun. Record all the chemistry.
The
best. It bonds with everything.
That's right.
I know. We're the J team today.
4 J's.
Yep. All right. Don't forget to take your medicine, everyone, and stay hydrated. We'll see you around.
Bye.